As the night settles deeper over this ancient world, imagine the sky stretching wide and unbroken above small villages and quiet farmlands. There are no city lights to brighten the darkness, only the gentle glow of hearth fires scattered across the landscape like warm, flickering stars on the ground. Inside each home, people end their day in a way that feels almost timeless. The air is filled with the soft scent of burning wood and freshly baked bread made from grains harvested earlier that season. Without potatoes, every meal is a careful balance of what the land can offer, something that asks for patience and respect rather than abundance. The hearth is at the center of life. Even its crackling sound brings a sense of comfort. In a world without electricity or machines, that steady glow of firelight is what families rely on. Children rest beside the warmth, listening to stories about the earth, the seasons, and the foods that sustained generations before them. And if you imagine yourself standing in one of these homes, you might notice the small details. Bundles of dried herbs hanging from wooden beams, baskets woven from reeds and filled with grains, a clay jar of lentils waiting to be cooked the next day. Everything is simple, yet everything has a purpose. The calm rhythm of life shapes the rhythm of meals. There is no rush to cook quickly, no expectation of instant flavor. Vegetables simmer slowly, grains are ground by hand, and meals are shared in a quiet circle where conversation is soft and unhurried. People eat not just to fill their hunger, but to connect with each other, with their land, and with the traditions passed down over many lifetimes. And in this soft, peaceful world, the absence of potatoes is not felt as a loss. It is simply the natural order of things. No one could imagine a future where a single plant would travel across oceans and reshape the diets of millions. All they knew was the familiar comfort of the foods they had always relied on. So, as you continue to drift into this calm past, let the idea settle gently in your mind. Before the potato arrived, the world was not empty or lacking. It was simply different, slower, quieter, shaped by ancient harvests and long-standing traditions. And in the glow of those early hearths, beneath the vast night sky, humanity found nourishment in ways that were simple, steady, and deeply connected to the natural world. This is the beginning of our journey, a soft entry into a time when the potato was still unknown, and the world moved with a gentler, slower breath. As we move deeper into this quiet past, the warmth of the ancient hearth becomes the center of our journey. In nearly every old home, whether it stood on a wind-swept European plain, a gentle Middle Eastern hillside, or a forest clearing in Asia, the hearth was more than a place for cooking. It was the heart of the household, the place where the day began and where it slowly faded into night. Imagine entering such a home. The doorway is low, the roof supported by beams softened by age, and the air inside is calm and steady. The moment you step in, the warmth from the hearth wraps around you like a blanket. It is not harsh or burning, only a soft, familiar heat that spreads through the room and eases the body after a long day outside. The fire crackles quietly, sending tiny sparks of orange light into the air before they fade into the shadows. Its glow dances across the walls, revealing shelves of simple pottery, woven baskets, and wooden tools worn smooth from years of use. Everything here carries a sense of patience. Nothing is hurried, nothing is wasted, and every object has earned its place through long, steady service. Above the fire, a pot simmers slowly. The ingredients inside are modest, perhaps grains, beans, or small pieces of vegetables, but the scent is comforting in a way that feels older than memory. People in this world understood the gentle art of slow cooking. Meals took time, not because they had to, but because that was the rhythm of life itself. There was no rush, no expectation for quick results. Food gathered the warmth of the flames, the quiet of the evening, and the care of the hands that prepared it. Families gathered around this hearth not only for meals, but for moments of stillness. During the colder months, this spot was where stories were told, tools were repaired, and dreams were whispered. Children fell asleep listening to the soft murmur of their parents' voices, the fire's gentle crackle becoming a natural lullaby. Even adults found a rare peace sitting beside the flames, watching the embers glow like small, steady stars in the dimness. Outside the home, the world might have been unpredictable, shifting seasons, long winters, sudden storms. But here, by the hearth, everything felt stable. The fire represented safety and continuity. It was the one place where the darkness could not intrude, the one light people trusted to guide them through the calm and the quiet of every night. And yet, in this safe and familiar warmth, no one had ever dropped a potato into the pot. That simple, everyday action we might imagine today was still centuries away. Instead, the meals before the fire were made with ingredients long known to the land: grains gathered from nearby fields, herbs dried in bundles near the roof beams, vegetables grown in small gardens behind the house. As the fire continues to burn, sending soft waves of heat across the room, try to picture the serenity of these evenings. Nothing interrupts the peace. The night outside is wide and quiet, the sky filled with stars untouched by modern lights. The only movement is the gentle rising and falling of the flames. The only sound, the slow, rhythmic breathing of a home settling into rest. In the warm glow of the ancient hearth, people found comfort, connection, and a sense of belonging. It was here that traditions formed, where families grew, and where countless meals were prepared in a world that had not yet discovered the potato. This hearth, simple yet essential, held the power to nourish both body and spirit. And as the fire glows softly, our journey continues, carrying us deeper into the foods, customs, and quiet moments of life in a world before the potato ever arrived. As we step away from the warm glow of the ancient hearth, the world opens into vast, peaceful landscapes shaped not by potatoes, but by the quiet strength of grains. These grains, humble, dependable, and deeply rooted in the soil, formed the foundation of life for countless generations. Long before the potato ever reached distant shores, grains carried humanity from season to season, field to field, century to century. Picture a valley at dawn, long before the noise of cities or machines. The sun rises slowly, its light brushing over rolling fields of wheat, barley, and millet. Each stalk moves gently in the breeze, bending and straightening in soft, rhythmic waves. The sound of the wind passing through them is almost like a whispered melody, steady, soothing, and ancient. For early communities, these fields were more precious than gold. They represented survival, stability, and the promise of nourishment. Farmers woke before the sun, their steps quiet as they walked along the edges of the fields, checking the growth of every patch. The land demanded patience, but it offered something in return: a simple, steady harvest that could be stored through long winters and unpredictable seasons. Imagine the calm routine of gathering these grains. There are no machines, only hands, simple tools, and shared effort. The work is slow, almost meditative. People cut the stalks carefully, tying them into bundles and carrying them to open spaces where the grains can dry under the gentle warmth of the sun. Every step is unhurried, grounded in the rhythm of nature. These grains, so light, so small, held remarkable power. When ground into flour, they became bread that fed households through harsh winters. When boiled into porridge, they offered comfort after long days of labor. When baked into flatbreads or simmered in clay pots, they provided energy for travel, trade, and everyday life. In many ancient cultures, grains were not just food. They were symbols of life and renewal. people celebrated the harvest with festivals, songs, and quiet moments of gratitude. The cycle of planting and gathering shaped entire communities, weaving people together through shared work and shared meals. Imagine the storage rooms of these households. Large clay jars stood in rows, filled with grains gathered from months of careful tending. These jars represented security and peace of mind. In a world without refrigeration, supermarkets, or imported foods, grains were the steady companions that made life possible. And even in the most ordinary moments, grains brought families together. Picture a small table beside the hearth, where freshly baked flatbread rests on a wooden board. The bread is warm, its surface slightly cracked from the heat of the fire. Its aroma fills the room, a soft, comforting scent that has been familiar to humanity for thousands of years. Families sit quietly, sharing pieces of bread in the gentle light of evening. Conversation is slow. Sometimes only a few words are exchanged, yet the feeling of connection is strong. Everyone understands the importance of the food before them, not because it is luxurious, but because it is dependable, nourishing, and rooted in the land they know. Long before potatoes became a household staple, grains carried the world. They shaped early civilizations, influenced trade routes, and supported communities across continents. Their simple presence in daily life brought calm, stability, and a sense of continuity from one generation to the next. As we leave these quiet fields behind, the wind continues its soft song through the tall stalks. The ancient rhythm of grains remains with us, steady, grounding, peaceful. And slowly, with that calm in mind, we step forward to the next part of our journey, exploring the foods that deepen the nourishment of a world before the potato. As our journey continues, the landscape narrows gently to focus on two grains that shaped entire civilizations: barley and wheat. These simple plants, rising quietly from the earth, carried a strength far greater than their fragile stems suggested. Long before the potato entered the story of human food, barley and wheat formed the backbone of life in villages, towns, and early cities. Imagine the early morning light spreading over a barley field. The stalks shimmer in a soft golden hue, each one bending slightly under the weight of its grains. There is something calming in their movement, slow, rhythmic, almost like breathing. These fields have witnessed centuries pass, yet their cycle remains gentle and constant. Barley was one of the first grains ever cultivated by humans. Its resilience made it a trusted companion. It could endure harsh winds, unexpected droughts, and cold nights. Farmers knew that even in difficult years, barley would find a way to grow. With every harvest, it brought peace of mind, helping families feel secure as they prepared for the seasons ahead. Now picture wheat fields not far away. Their color is lighter, almost silver when brushed by the morning breeze. Wheat required slightly more care than barley, but it rewarded patience with flour that produced richer bread, soft, warm, and deeply nourishing. Villages celebrated wheat harvests, gathering with quiet joy as the fields turned golden under the rising sun. Together, barley and wheat filled countless kitchens long before the potato arrived. In every home, these grains were transformed through slow, mindful preparation. The grinding stones turned gently, their circular motion steady and unhurried. Their soft sound echoed through small rooms, becoming a familiar part of daily life. When the flour was ready, families gathered near the hearth to prepare dough. The process was simple: flour mixed with water, sometimes with a hint of salt or herbs. The dough was shaped by hand, flattened or rolled, then placed carefully on warm stones or in clay ovens. The heat worked slowly, filling the home with a soft, comforting aroma that signaled evening was near. Barley, with its earthy flavor, became hearty loaves and dense flatbreads that stayed fresh for days. It simmered into warm porridges that soothed the body during cold nights. Wheat, lighter and more delicate, created bread that felt almost like a small celebration, something shared during gatherings, festivals, or peaceful family meals. The quiet strength of these grains extended beyond the kitchen. They supported trade between distant regions, influenced early economies, and shaped the ways communities grew. Entire cultures flourished around them, planting, tending, harvesting, and storing them with a sense of patience that matched the pace of the natural world. And in the stillness of ancient evenings, these grains brought people together. Families sat near the hearth, breaking bread slowly, enjoying its warmth while the night air cooled outside. The day's worries faded in the presence of such simple, essential nourishment. Barley and wheat did not demand praise or attention. They didn't need to. Their presence was steady, quiet, and reliable, qualities that anchored human life for thousands of years. These grains carried civilizations forward with a subtle strength, guiding daily routines and filling meals with a kind of gentle comfort that modern life rarely pauses to notice. As the light fades over the fields and the stars begin to appear, imagine stepping away from these golden landscapes with a feeling of calm appreciation. Before the potato became a global staple, barley and wheat had already shaped human history, offering dependable nourishment and peace in every season. And with that calm settled around us, we continue our journey to the next chapter, deeper into the foods that sustained a world long before the potato made its way across continents. As we continue drifting through this gentle world before the potato, our path leads us to the quiet presence of millets, tiny grains that carried enormous importance in early human life. In many places, long before wheat and barley dominated vast landscapes, millets were the steady, loyal companion of small villages and early settlements. Imagine a simple village kitchen from thousands of years ago. The walls are made of clay or wood, the floor is smooth earth, and the air holds a soft mixture of scents, dried herbs, smoke from the hearth, and the faint, nutty aroma of millet stored in woven baskets. Everything feels slow and peaceful, shaped by a rhythm that belonged entirely to nature. Millet plants themselves were modest, shorter than wheat, lighter than barley, but incredibly resilient. They could grow where other crops could not. Dry lands, thin soils, high hillsides, millets found a way to thrive in places where farming was a challenge. Their quiet endurance made them essential to the people who lived close to the earth. Picture villagers harvesting millet as the sun sets in a soft, golden haze. The fields are small, tucked into corners of the land that larger crops overlook. Each plant carries clusters of tiny grains that shine gently when touched by light. The sound of harvesting is subtle, gentle rustling, soft footsteps, and the calm voices of people working together. Millet grains were stored carefully in jars, sacks, or clay pots. These simple seeds, no larger than a bead, held the promise of nourishment through harsh winters or difficult seasons. Their presence in a kitchen meant security, stability, and a sense of quiet comfort. In early kitchens, millet transformed into meals that were warm, filling, and grounding. Imagine a pot simmering above a small fire. The millet slowly swelling as it absorbs water. The steam rises softly, carrying a mild, soothing scent that fills the room. Families gathered around this pot, waiting patiently as the tiny grains turned into a gentle porridge or a soft, comforting mash. Millets could be enjoyed plain, warm, simple, calming, or mixed with herbs, vegetables, or a few pieces of dried fruit. In some homes, the grains were ground into flour and shaped into thin flatbreads baked on warm stones. These foods weren't extravagant. They were quiet, humble, and deeply connected to the land that produced them. The atmosphere in these early village kitchens was serene. There was no rush, no loud activity, just the steady crackle of the fire, the turning of a wooden spoon, and the soft, contented murmurs of people preparing their meals. Life moved at a gentle pace, guided by the sun, the soil, and the seasons. Millet supported these early communities not just with nourishment, but with a sense of continuity. Every year, the same cycle repeated: planting, tending, harvesting, storing, cooking. The simplicity of this routine gave people a feeling of calm purpose, linking one generation to the next. In many regions, millet was more than food. It was a companion. It sustained travelers crossing open landscapes. It nourished families during lean times. It filled quiet evenings with warm meals shared in small, smoky kitchens where light flickered gently against clay walls. As you imagine these early village kitchens, let the scene settle softly in your mind. A warm hearth, a pot simmering slowly, the scent of millet in the air, and a world that moved quietly, patiently, long before the potato was even known. With this gentle picture resting around us, we move forward to the next chapter in our calm journey through the foods of the ancient world. Before the warmth of potatoes ever touched the hearths of the old world, bread stood at the center of nearly every meal. Not the kind you might imagine today, soft, fluffy, shaped with precision, but simple rustic bread born from patience, quiet labor, and the gentle partnership between humans and the grains they grew. Imagine a peaceful morning in an old village. The air is cool and still, with just a faint hint of smoke drifting from small chimney openings. Inside the hearth-warmed homes, the first sounds of the day are not hurried or loud. They are slow and familiar. The grinding of grains against stone, the soft thud of dough being worked by hand, the quiet breathing of the fire as it grows from embers into a steady glow. For thousands of years, people prepared bread using the most basic tools: flat stones, wooden bowls, clay ovens, warm coals. The process was unhurried, guided by instinct rather than timers or measurements. The dough was often just flour and water, mixed until it came together in a firm but gentle mass. Sometimes a pinch of salt, sometimes herbs, sometimes a bit of leftover dough from the previous day to give the bread a deeper flavor. This simplicity gave bread its calming, grounding presence. There was something meditative about kneading dough, pressing, folding, turning, letting the warmth of the hands soften it gradually. In these quiet moments, generations of people found a kind of stillness that modern life rarely allows. The bread that emerged from ancient hearths was humble and sturdy. Flatbreads warmed on heated stones, their surfaces lightly blistered by the fire. Thick loaves baked in clay ovens, their crusts forming slowly, filling the home with a gentle aroma that wrapped everyone in comfort. These breads were not meant to be soft or fancy. They were meant to nourish, to last, to fill the hunger of long days spent tending fields or caring for animals. Families gathered around the hearth as the bread finished baking. A wooden board held the freshly cooked loaves, each one carrying the marks of handwork and fire. When broken open, the inside was dense but warm, releasing a mild scent of grain and smoke. It was the kind of food that encouraged slow, thoughtful eating, small bites, shared quietly among family members while the fire flickered softly nearby. Before potatoes, bread provided energy for both work and rest. It traveled with shepherds across open fields, with traders moving along early routes, with farmers heading out before sunrise. A simple piece of bread, wrapped in cloth, was enough to sustain someone for hours. Its presence brought reassurance, stability, and a sense of gentle routine. Evening meals were especially peaceful. After a long day, families returned to the hearth, where bread waited to be eaten with warm broth, a small pot of lentils, or a handful of roasted vegetables. The simplicity of the meal made it comforting. Nothing extra, nothing rushed, only the timeless pairing of bread and warmth. Bread also carried tradition. Recipes, though unwritten, were passed down through hands and memories. One generation taught the next how to feel the dough, how to watch the fire, how to listen to the quiet language of cooking. These lessons weren't hurried. They were soft, patient, shaped by years of practice. In a world without potatoes, bread was the steady heart of daily nourishment. It filled homes with warmth, filled journeys with sustenance, and filled lives with a sense of dependable continuity. Every crackle of the fire, every smell of baking dough, every shared loaf reminded people of their connection to the land and to each other. As the scene settles in your mind, warm bread, glowing hearth, the gentle hush of an ancient kitchen, we slowly move onward, deeper into the foods that shaped the world long before the arrival of the potato. Bedtime story vibe. As we move gently forward on this quiet journey through the world before potatoes, we arrive at the comforting presence of pulses and legumes, foods that sustained countless generations with their steady nourishment. Long before the potato became a familiar sight in kitchens, beans and lentils filled pots across continents, simmering slowly over hearth fires and offering warmth, strength, and calm. Imagine stepping into a simple home at dusk. The sky outside is fading into shades of soft blue and pale gold, and the first stars are beginning to appear. Inside, the air is warm and peaceful. A clay pot sits above the fire, its lid rattling ever so slightly as steam escapes in gentle wisps. The scent drifting through the room is subtle, earthy, and soothing. It is the aroma of lentils and beans cooking slowly, blending with herbs gathered from small gardens nearby. These foods were among the earliest companions of human agriculture. Their seeds were easy to store, easy to plant, and dependable even in uncertain seasons. In dry climates where water was scarce, lentils flourished. In cooler regions with long springs, peas thrived. And in warmer lands, broad beans and chickpeas became staples that families relied upon year after year. Picture the process of preparing these ancient pulses. It begins calmly, with the simple act of sorting and washing. The beans slide through the fingers with a soft, familiar sound, tiny taps and rustles that blend with the natural quiet of the room. Villagers performed this task in the early mornings or late evenings, often seated near an open doorway where the breeze carried in the scent of fields and distant hills. Once placed in the pot, the beans cooked slowly, sometimes for hours. There was no pressure to hurry. The hearth provided steady heat, and families allowed the meal to transform in its own time. As the beans softened, they absorbed water, taking on a richness that felt comforting after long days of work. The slow simmering became a kind of background music to everyday life, the bubbling of water, the gentle crackle of wood, the occasional stirring of the pot. Legumes were often flavored with simple ingredients, herbs like thyme, dill, or rosemary, a handful of onions, maybe a few carrots or pieces of turnip. These ingredients blended together in a way that filled the home with a peaceful warmth, making even the smallest meal feel satisfying. For many families, a bowl of lentils or beans was the centerpiece of the evening. The food was shared quietly, scooped with pieces of bread or wooden spoons. Each bite carried the calm of the day's rhythms, the steady labor of the fields, the soft murmur of conversations, the gentle transition from daylight to night. Pulses played an important role beyond the hearth as well. Travelers carried dried beans and lentils with them on long journeys, knowing they could be cooked anywhere a small fire could be made. These foods strengthened people through winters, famines, and difficult seasons. In peaceful times, they were a source of comfort. In hard times, a source of hope. Their importance grew from their simplicity. They asked for very little, just water, heat, and time. And in return, they offered meals that were warm, grounding, and dependable. They fit naturally into the slow, thoughtful rhythm of life in ancient communities, where nothing was rushed and every meal was a quiet ceremony of gratitude. Even now, if you close your eyes, you might imagine the soft glow of the fire illuminating a clay pot, the steam rising in thin, curling trails, and the scent of lentils filling the room with a sense of calm. This was the experience of eating in a world before potatoes, a world where every meal came from long-established traditions, passed down gently through the hands of generations. And as the pot simmers slowly in that peaceful past, we continue onward to the next chapter of our journey, exploring more of the humble foods that nourished humanity long before a new route would change kitchens forever. As our journey continues through a world before potatoes, we come to the gentle presence of vegetables, the quiet, steady companions of countless meals across ancient landscapes. Long before the potato crossed oceans, people relied on a variety of roots, leaves, and shoots to nourish their bodies and warm their hearths. Imagine stepping into a small garden behind an early village home. The soil is soft and rich from careful tending. Tiny shoots emerge slowly from the earth, their green tips glistening with dew in the morning sun. Every plant grows at its own pace, following the rhythm of the seasons. Here, nothing rushes. Everything unfolds with patience and quiet purpose. Vegetables such as cabbages, onions, leeks, carrots, and turnips were common in these gardens. They were simple, sturdy, and dependable. A cabbage, large and round, could be harvested in late autumn and stored for months. Carrots and turnips, sweet and earthy, could be left in the ground until the cold of winter arrived. These plants provided essential nutrients and brought color, texture, and warmth to daily meals. In the early kitchen, vegetables were treated with care. Picture a pot above a slowly burning fire, filled with chopped roots and greens. The water begins to simmer, releasing a gentle steam that carries the aroma of the harvest into every corner of the home. The ingredients bubble quietly, blending their flavors in a way that feels natural and soothing. Some vegetables were roasted over hot coals, their skins turning tender and slightly sweet. Others were boiled into soft, comforting soups that could be eaten slowly over conversation or in peaceful silence. Herbs from the garden, parsley, dill, thyme, added a soft fragrance, making each meal a sensory experience of warmth, calm, and familiarity. The vegetables of the old world were more than food. They connected people to the earth, to the seasons, and to traditions passed down through generations. Each meal required mindfulness, planting, tending, harvesting, cooking. Yet this patience brought a quiet joy. People understood that the food on their table was not just nourishment for the body, but a reminder of the slow, steady rhythms of life. Evenings in ancient homes were calm and reflective. Families gathered near the hearth with bowls of tender vegetables, breaking bread alongside them, sipping warm water or herbal tea. The sounds of chopping, stirring, and simmering were soft and soothing. The glow of the fire highlighted the earthy colors of the vegetables, turning ordinary meals into gentle, comforting rituals. Across different regions, the varieties changed, but the purpose remained the same. Leafy greens in one village, root vegetables in another. Each reflected the land, the soil, and the care of the people who cultivated them. And everywhere, vegetables offered a steady, dependable source of sustenance, long before a new, foreign root would arrive to change the world of kitchens forever. As you imagine this quiet garden and the simmering pots in ancient homes, let the calm of these simple vegetables settle in your mind. They were modest, patient, and nurturing, foods that shaped the rhythm of daily life, quietly supporting humanity in ways both gentle and essential. As we drift further into the gentle world before potatoes, we come to root crops, the earthy, steadfast plants that nourished generations and held the quiet rhythm of life. Long before the potato traveled across oceans, people relied on roots such as turnips, parsnips, radishes, and salsify. These crops grew slowly beneath the soil, drawing strength from the earth itself and offering sustenance that was both reliable and calming. Picture a misty morning in a small village. The fields are soft with dew, and the air carries the faint scent of soil, damp grass, and growing plants. Hands move carefully through the furrows, gently lifting roots from the ground. Each one is slightly different, some long and slender, some round and firm, but all are filled with quiet potential. These roots were harvested with care, for their value was not only in their nutrition, but in their ability to store through the colder months. Families relied on them as a foundation for hearty meals, whether simmered in pots over the fire or roasted slowly among glowing coals. Their earthy flavors were gentle, subtle, and comforting, connecting people directly to the soil that nurtured them. Imagine the process in an old kitchen. The fire burns steadily in the hearth, sending soft waves of warmth across the room. The roots are scrubbed clean, then sliced, chopped or left whole. In clay pots or iron cauldrons, they simmer slowly, releasing tender sweetness and filling the air with a soft, earthy aroma. The gentle bubbling of the water and the quiet hiss of steam become a soothing symphony, harmonizing with the calm of the evening. Root crops were versatile. Parsnips could be mashed to accompany bread, turnips roasted to bring out their natural sweetness, and radishes eaten raw for a crisp, refreshing bite. Their textures and flavors added variety to daily meals, yet each dish retained a simplicity that reflected the slow, mindful pace of life. Even in difficult seasons, roots provided stability. Their resilience allowed families to survive winters, droughts, or times when other crops failed. Every bite was a reminder of the connection between humans and the earth, of how patience, care, and understanding of the land could produce sustenance and comfort in equal measure. In quiet homes, evenings were peaceful. Families gathered near the hearth with bowls of tender roots and warm porridge. Conversation was soft, the flames of the fire flickering gently, shadows dancing slowly across walls. There was a sense of fulfillment in these simple meals, a quiet joy that came from patience and steady, mindful living. Root crops shaped the rhythm of life in countless communities. They were humble, yet essential, nourishing both body and spirit. Long before the potato made its journey across continents, these earthy vegetables held a central place in kitchens, gardens, and hearts, symbols of resilience, calm, and quiet sustenance. And as you imagine these gentle fields and simmering pots, allow the warmth of the hearth, the aroma of roots, and the soft sounds of evening life to settle around you. As we continue our journey through a world before potatoes, we arrive at two humble roots, turnips and parsnips. These vegetables, small yet full of character, were staples in the diets of countless communities. They grew quietly in the soil, drawing nutrients slowly, and offered meals that were both simple and deeply comforting. Imagine a cool morning in a village. The air is fresh, carrying the scent of damp earth and growing plants. In the garden, rows of turnips and parsnips peek above the soil, their green tops gently swaying in the light breeze. Their colors are soft, creams, pale purples, and gentle greens that blend perfectly with the surrounding landscape. Harvesting these roots was a patient task. Farmers bent low, loosening the soil with careful hands or small wooden tools, and lifted each vegetable gently from the ground. There was no rush, no hurry, only the quiet rhythm of work guided by the natural pace of the day. Once harvested, the roots were brought into homes, where they awaited their transformation over the gentle warmth of the hearth. Families stored some in cool cellars for later months, while the freshest were prepared immediately. Their versatility allowed them to become soft, warming meals or crisp additions to simple dishes. In the hearth-warmed kitchen, turnips and parsnips were washed, peeled, and sliced. Their earthy aroma began to fill the room as they simmered slowly in water or roasted beside glowing coals. The gentle steam rose in thin curls, carrying a scent that was both grounding and soothing. Paring, chopping, and stirring became a form of meditation. Each motion was steady and calm, connecting the cook to the food, the fire, and the passing day. The soft hiss of simmering water, the occasional pop of the fire, and the warm light on clay walls created a comforting atmosphere. Turnips offered a mild sweetness that deepened when cooked, while parsnips brought a richer, slightly nutty flavor. Together, they created meals that were warming and satisfying, perfect for long evenings near the hearth. The textures were soft, melting gently in the mouth, calming the senses, and easing both hunger and fatigue. Families often paired these roots with bread or grains, creating simple, nourishing meals. Children ate slowly, savoring each bite, while elders reflected on the day, sharing quiet stories of past harvests and the changing seasons. Every meal carried a sense of continuity and connection to the land. Beyond flavor, these roots were reliable. They could be stored through the winter months, providing steady nourishment when other crops were scarce. Their presence on the table gave comfort, a sense of security, and a reminder of the slow, patient rhythm of life. Even in distant regions, these roots were valued. In northern villages, parsnips endured the cold, while in temperate regions, turnips thrived. Across climates, both roots maintained a quiet, dependable presence in the diets of families, always offering warmth, stability, and sustenance. The soft sweetness of turnips and parsnips also connected people to ancient culinary traditions. Recipes and methods were passed down from one generation to the next, each family teaching the next how to prepare them perfectly, whether boiled, roasted, or mashed into comforting meals. As the evening settles and the fire glows warmly, imagine a bowl of these tender roots on the table, steam rising slowly, the scent mingling with that of bread and herbs. This is the world before the potato, simple, calm, and nourishing, where turnips and parsnips offered quiet comfort and steady sustenance for every household. Bedtime story vibe. As our journey drifts further into the quiet world before potatoes, we find ourselves surrounded by cabbages and leafy greens, the gentle, steadfast vegetables of ancient gardens. Their presence was modest, yet essential, filling kitchens with both color and nourishment. In the soft morning light, the leaves glisten with dew, hinting at the freshness that would later warm the hearth. Imagine walking through a small garden tucked behind a village home. The soil is soft and earthy beneath your feet, and rows of cabbages rise slowly, their round, layered forms almost glowing in the sun. Spinach, kale, and other leafy greens sway gently in the breeze, moving in unison as if they were part of the quiet rhythm of the world itself. Harvesting these greens was a gentle, deliberate task. Hands moved carefully, separating tender leaves from sturdier stalks, placing them into woven baskets that rested near the garden path. The work was slow and meditative, a quiet conversation between humans and the plants they tended. Once gathered, the greens were taken into kitchens, warmed by the steady glow of the hearth. Some were boiled slowly, releasing a faint, soothing aroma that filled the room. Others were sautéed gently in animal fats or oils, their flavors melding with herbs and roots from nearby gardens. Every movement in the kitchen was deliberate, every stir a quiet rhythm in harmony with the fire. Cabbages, dense and hearty, could be stored through colder months, providing families with a reliable source of nourishment. Their thick leaves offered warmth in soups and stews, a soft texture that complemented the simpler grains and root vegetables already on the table. Lighter greens, such as spinach or chard, brought freshness and subtle sweetness, brightening meals with their gentle flavors. Evening meals were calm and reflective. Families gathered around the hearth, breaking bread and sharing bowls filled with tender, simmering greens. The crackle of the fire, the faint hiss of boiling water, and the soft murmur of conversation created a soothing atmosphere, a gentle cadence that marked the close of the day. These vegetables were more than sustenance. They were companions in daily life. They connected people to the earth, to the seasons, and to a quiet sense of continuity. Every leaf harvested, every pot stirred, carried with it the patient care of generations and the deep, grounding comfort of familiarity. Across villages and regions, the varieties of greens shifted with the soil and climate, yet their role remained constant. They were humble, steadfast, and essential, quietly nourishing both body and spirit long before new crops like the potato arrived to change the kitchens of the world. Even now, if you close your eyes, you can imagine the gentle rustle of leaves in the garden, the warmth of the hearth, and the soft aroma of simmering greens. It is a scene of peace, calm, and subtle beauty, an ancient world where every meal was shaped by patience, care, and the quiet abundance of the earth. The presence of cabbages and leafy greens reminds us that before the potato, meals were a slow, mindful experience. Every bite was filled with warmth. Every pot on the hearth a small ceremony of nourishment. These vegetables offered stability, comfort, and a soft, unhurried rhythm to daily life. Along the quiet banks of rivers and the gentle edges of seas, communities lived in harmony with the waters that sustained them. Long before potatoes became a household staple, people relied on the slow, patient rhythm of fishing to fill their tables. The water offered a steady, calming abundance, and those who tended it moved in quiet tune with the tides and the seasons. Imagine a small village at dawn, the mist hovering just above the surface of the river. The air is soft and still, carrying the faint scent of damp earth and flowing water. Fisherfolk prepare their simple nets and wooden traps, moving with careful precision. Every motion is deliberate, each knot tied with attention, as if the very rhythm of their hands is part of the gentle flow of the water itself. Boats, small and unassuming, rest on the quiet shore. They glide slowly across the surface when launched, creating only soft ripples that fade into the mirror-like reflection of the sky. The fisherfolk sit patiently, watching the water, listening to its subtle sounds, waiting for the bounty that has fed generations. The catches themselves were varied and modest, yet sufficient. Fish from rivers, lakes, and the shallow sea were carefully cleaned and prepared. Some were cooked immediately over small fires, their gentle aroma mingling with the fresh scent of reeds and mud. Others were dried or smoked for later use, preserving their nourishment for days when fishing was not possible. In the kitchens near the water, pots simmered slowly over low flames. Fish were boiled with herbs, occasionally combined with grains or roots, creating meals that were simple, hearty, and calming. The soft, earthy aroma filled the rooms, wrapping the inhabitants in a quiet sense of comfort and well-being. Children often watched, sitting quietly near the hearth. Learning the rhythm of preparing fish, the care needed in every step, they observed how patience and attention could turn a humble catch into nourishment that satisfied both body and spirit. Every action, from scaling to simmering, carried the same calm, methodical energy that had guided generations of fisherfolk. Evening meals were peaceful affairs. Families gathered to share the soft, tender fish, often accompanied by bread or grains harvested from nearby fields. Conversation was gentle, sometimes only murmurs and soft laughter, the warmth of the hearth enhancing the feeling of safety and continuity. Fishing shaped daily life, not just in terms of food, but in pace. Each day followed the natural movements of the water, the rise and fall of tides, the gentle cycle of seasons. This slow, attentive rhythm created a world where nourishment was earned calmly, where meals were both a reward and a meditation on patience. The sea and river provided more than just food. They offered a quiet sense of connection. Every ripple, every splash reminded the communities of their place in the natural world, of how the gentle forces of water could sustain life steadily and quietly. Fisherfolk respected the water, taking only what was needed and allowing its bounty to continue. This careful balance ensured that meals remained predictable and comforting, that families had enough to eat, and that the rhythm of life remained calm and unhurried. As the fire crackled softly in small kitchens, The aroma of simmering fish mingled with the scent of herbs and freshly baked bread. The night outside was still, the water reflecting stars and moonlight, and inside, people felt the peace of sustenance earned patiently and shared quietly. Life by rivers and seas was a gentle dance between humans and nature. Every meal, every catch, every calm evening near the hearth carried a sense of continuity, stability, and slow, nourishing comfort. A world shaped by patience, rhythm, and the quiet abundance of water. In the soft, sun-warmed corners of ancient villages, gardens and orchards offered gentle sweetness to daily life. Long before potatoes traveled across continents, fruits such as apples, pears, plums, and berries were carefully cultivated and quietly cherished. Their presence was humble yet comforting, filling kitchens with delicate aromas and bringing subtle joy to each meal. Imagine walking through an orchard in early morning light. Mist hovers low over the ground, clinging to the grass and the smooth bark of trees. Branches bend slightly under the weight of ripening fruits, their colors ranging from pale green to deep red, each one glistening softly in the slow, golden sunlight. The scene feels peaceful, almost timeless. Harvesting these fruits was a slow, deliberate task. Children might reach for the lowest branches, hands brushing gently over leaves and twigs, while elders carefully selected the ripest fruits from higher branches. Every movement was unhurried, and every fruit was handled with care, honoring the patience of both the trees and the people who tended them. Once brought indoors, the fruits were treated with gentle attention. Apples were sliced slowly, plums halved to reveal their soft, juicy centers. Berries were washed in calm, deliberate motions, their tiny forms sliding quietly through fingers. The scent of ripe fruit filled the room, subtle and sweet, mingling with the warmth of the hearth. Fruits could be eaten fresh, a simple delight enjoyed slowly, or preserved for later months. Some were dried in the gentle warmth of the sun, while others were simmered into mild compotes, softly sweetened with honey or combined with herbs from the garden. These preparations required patience, yet the results were quietly comforting. Evenings in ancient homes were gentle and reflective. Families gathered near the hearth with bowls of tender fruit, the soft, natural sweetness balancing the earthy flavors of grains, roots, and legumes. Conversation was calm and unhurried, the quiet crackle of the fire harmonizing with the gentle presence of food that nurtured both body and spirit. The act of tending orchards and gardens also brought a quiet rhythm to life. Each season was marked by planting, growth, ripening, and harvest. People moved in harmony with the natural cycles, learning to observe patience, understanding, and care. Fruits became symbols of the steady passage of time, of continuity, and of life nurtured carefully and deliberately. Across regions, varieties differed, yet their role remained constant. Whether in a small northern orchard or a sunlit southern garden, fruits provided gentle sweetness that could be counted on. A subtle reward after the daily tasks of tending the land, preparing meals, and caring for the household. The soft colors and delicate textures of fruit also brought quiet beauty to the kitchen. Bowls of apples, pears, and berries glowed in the firelight, their skins and leaves reflecting the warm illumination. This visual presence added another layer of calm, a gentle comfort for the eyes as well as the palate. Fruits were more than simple treats. They provided nourishment, connection to the earth, and a mindful pause in the day. Eating them encouraged slow, thoughtful consumption, and the appreciation of natural sweetness in its most subtle form. Even during colder months, preserved fruits offered continuity. Stored carefully, dried or simmered, they extended the calm comfort of the harvest into the quiet winter days, allowing families to enjoy the warmth and nourishment of nature even when the gardens rested beneath frost and snow. As the fire glows softly in the hearth and the evening deepens, imagine the aroma of tender, gently prepared fruits filling the kitchen. the quiet conversations of family blending with the natural sweetness of the orchard. This was a world of calm, patience, and slow nourishment, where every fruit was a small reminder of the gentle abundance of nature. Alongside the humble grains, roots, and vegetables, there existed another quiet source of richness in ancient kitchens: herbs and natural flavorings. Long before potatoes arrived to change the way meals were prepared, people relied on aromatic plants to transform simple food into comforting, gentle experiences. Their presence was subtle yet essential, adding depth and calm to everyday nourishment. Imagine a small garden in the soft light of early morning. Tiny green shoots reach toward the sun, delicate leaves brushing against one another in the gentle breeze. Parsley, dill, thyme, rosemary, and mint all sway quietly, carrying the faint scent of the earth and the promise of flavor yet to be unlocked. Harvesting herbs was a slow, mindful act. Hands brushed lightly over the leaves, selecting only the tenderest and freshest shoots. Each stem was cut carefully and brought indoors, where it would later release its aroma into simmering pots, warm breads, or gentle porridges. The work itself was calming, a quiet rhythm connecting the gardener to the kitchen and the land. In the hearth-warmed kitchens, herbs were added to dishes with subtlety. A pinch of thyme could deepen the richness of a simmering root vegetable stew. A few sprigs of dill could lift the gentle flavor of legumes. Mint or basil could bring a whisper of brightness to grains or roasted vegetables. These small touches transformed meals without overpowering them, creating quiet layers of taste and comfort. Some herbs were dried for later use, carefully strung or tucked into clay jars. Even in the colder months, their scent could be released into kitchens, carrying the calm warmth of summer gardens into quiet winter evenings. Their presence was a gentle reminder of continuity, growth, and the passage of the seasons. Beyond flavor, herbs offered subtle health benefits. They soothed the body, warmed the spirit, and complemented the nourishing qualities of grains, roots, and fruits. Their inclusion in meals was a quiet ritual, a way to care for both the household and the rhythm of daily life. Evening meals were enhanced by the delicate touch of herbs. Families gathered around the hearth, sharing bowls of steaming vegetables or grains, the gentle aroma of thyme, parsley, or rosemary curling in the warm air. Conversation was soft and reflective, each bite accompanied by the calm, comforting fragrance of the plants that had grown slowly and patiently in the garden. Herbs also carried cultural meaning. Recipes and methods for using them were passed from one generation to the next, taught gently by parents and elders. Every sprinkle, every stem, reflected a tradition of care, patience, and attentiveness to the small but meaningful details of daily life. The process of using herbs was almost meditative, crushing leaves between fingers, stirring them into warm dishes, or placing them atop freshly baked bread engaged the senses in a slow, deliberate rhythm. The subtle textures, scents, and tastes created a peaceful harmony within the kitchen, filling it with calm and quiet beauty. In addition to cooking, herbs were sometimes brewed into teas or infusions. These gentle drinks carried warmth, subtle flavors, and a sense of comfort. Sipped slowly near the fire, they complemented meals or served as a calming conclusion to the day's work, connecting people with the natural world in its softest form. Herbs and natural flavorings shaped meals not through extravagance, but through patience and attentiveness. They reminded people to slow down, to notice the small details, and to find quiet satisfaction in nourishment prepared with care. Their gentle presence enriched life without rush, turning every kitchen into a place of calm, sensory delight. As the fire crackles softly and the evening air settles, imagine the faint aroma of herbs mingling with simmering roots, grains, and fruits. This was a world of slow flavors, quiet rituals, and subtle nourishment, where every meal carried the calm wisdom of generations and the gentle, enduring presence of nature itself. Alongside grains, roots, fruits, and herbs, ancient meals were quietly supported by eggs, milk, and other dairy products. These gentle essentials provided nourishment in forms both simple and versatile, enriching daily life long before the potato arrived in kitchens. Their soft textures and mild flavors brought warmth, comfort, and quiet satisfaction to homes across the world. Imagine a small village at dawn. Cows, goats, and sheep graze calmly in the soft morning light, their movements unhurried and peaceful. Chickens wander slowly through the yard, pecking quietly at the earth. The air carries a faint, natural scent of hay and animals, mingling with the cool freshness of the morning. Gathering eggs and milk was a gentle, deliberate task. Children often assisted, carefully collecting eggs from the coop, while elders milked the animals by hand. Every motion was unhurried, every gesture attentive, reflecting the rhythm of a life closely connected to the land and its creatures. Milk was used in a variety of ways. It could be warmed slowly over a hearth fire, poured into soft porridges, or combined with grains and fruits to create simple, nourishing dishes. Butter was churned with steady hands, its pale richness becoming a gentle companion to bread and roasted roots. Soft cheeses formed slowly, their flavors mild but comforting, offering nourishment and calm to the household. Eggs were treated with equal care. They could be boiled gently, fried slowly over low flames, or mixed into dough for breads and pastries. The subtle aroma of cooking eggs mingled softly with other ingredients, creating meals that felt grounding, warm, and sustaining. In kitchens warmed by hearth fires, these dairy essentials were more than just food. They were symbols of care and attentiveness. The act of milking, churning, or preparing eggs required patience and focus, transforming routine tasks into small, mindful rituals. Each step connected people to the rhythms of daily life and the quiet cycle of nature. Families relied on eggs and dairy not only for nourishment, but also for variety. A simple bowl of porridge could be enriched with a splash of milk. A soft slice of cheese could accompany bread, and eggs could become both a breakfast staple and a gentle addition to evening meals. These foods were versatile, steady, and subtly comforting. The presence of dairy products also reflected the gentle passage of seasons. Milk was freshest in spring and early summer, when animals grazed on tender grasses. Butter and cheese could be stored for longer periods, offering nourishment through autumn and winter, and reminding families of the steady abundance of their environment. Evenings in these homes were calm and reflective. A warm bowl of milk porridge, a soft slice of cheese, or a gently boiled egg could be shared quietly near the fire. The aroma, textures, and flavors brought a soothing presence, encouraging slow, mindful eating and soft conversation. Eggs and dairy provided more than sustenance. They offered a sense of continuity and stability. Generations learned to care for animals, to milk, churn, and prepare these foods with patience, passing down knowledge and techniques that ensured families were nourished year after year. In addition to food, dairy and eggs connected people to natural cycles. The rising and setting of the sun, the seasons of growth, and the care of animals were all reflected in the kitchen. Every meal carried this quiet connection, blending nourishment with the calm rhythm of life. As the fire glows softly and the night settles, imagine the gentle warmth of milk, the soft richness of butter, and the tender presence of eggs filling the kitchen. These quiet essentials shaped life with calm, comforting continuity, creating meals that were simple, sustaining, and deeply reassuring. Long before the potato became a staple, grains formed the quiet backbone of daily meals. Beyond wheat and barley, ancient communities relied on oats, rye, and other cereals, each offering gentle nourishment and a subtle, grounding presence. These grains grew patiently in fields and meadows, shaping the rhythm of life and the meals that sustained entire villages. Imagine walking through a soft, rolling landscape, where fields stretch gently under the morning sun. Oats sway lightly in the breeze, their slender stalks bending softly. Rye rises in sturdy rows, its tall forms moving slowly with the wind. The air is calm and earthy, carrying the faint scent of grains ready for harvest, blending with the distant rustle of trees. Harvesting these cereals required care and patience. Farmers bent low, slicing stalks with simple tools, gathering them into bundles. Each movement was deliberate, each step a quiet dance with the land. The grain once cut was tied, stacked, and eventually threshed slowly, releasing the tiny seeds that would become food, drink, and comfort for the family. In the hearth-warmed kitchen, these grains were transformed with gentle hands. Oats could be boiled into soft, warming porridge, perfect for starting a day in quiet reflection. Rye could be ground into flour for rustic breads, hearty and sustaining, filling the home with a gentle, earthy aroma. Other ancient cereals, less familiar to us today, were simmered slowly into soft meals, their flavors mild but comforting. The preparation of grains was almost meditative. Grinding stones moved rhythmically, hands pressing and turning the grains into flour. Pots bubbled softly over low flames, sending steam curling into the air. The gentle scents and textures created a quiet, peaceful atmosphere where nourishment was as much about calm and care as about sustenance. Grains also traveled with families, stored carefully to last through seasons when planting was not possible. They became the foundation of soups, stews, and porridge, their subtle flavors harmonizing with vegetables, legumes, and herbs. A bowl of oat porridge or rye bread brought warmth and stability to both body and spirit. Evenings were particularly peaceful when grains were part of the meal. Families gathered around the hearth with simple dishes, the soft crackle of fire blending with gentle conversation. The aroma of cooking oats or baking rye bread wrapped the room in quiet comfort, reminding everyone of the steady rhythm of life. These grains carried more than nourishment. They carried continuity. Knowledge of how to grow, harvest, and prepare them passed from generation to generation, embedding calm routines and subtle rituals into daily life. Each step was deliberate, a small meditation in motion. In addition to their warmth and taste, grains offered flexibility. Oats could be made into porridge, flat cakes, or fermented into gentle beverages. Rye flour could form dense loaves or mix with other grains to create soft, hearty breads. Their presence allowed families to vary their meals without abandoning simplicity or the calm pace of life. Across regions, different grains thrived in different soils. Yet all played similar roles in daily life. They provided steady energy, soft textures, and mild flavors that complemented vegetables, roots, dairy, and herbs. In their quiet abundance, grains became the backbone of sustenance, a gentle support for everyday existence. Even during challenging seasons, stored grains offered security. They ensured that families could prepare warm, nourishing meals when fresh vegetables were scarce or the winter winds blew cold. Their reliability fostered a sense of calm, a soft reassurance that life's basic needs would be met. As the hearth fire glows softly in the evening and the air settles into stillness, imagine the gentle aroma of simmering oats, the warmth of fresh rye bread, and the quiet satisfaction that comes from meals made with care. Grains beyond bread were modest, patient, and enduring, quietly shaping life with calm, nourishing presence. Among the quiet staples of ancient life, legumes held a special place. Beans, lentils, peas, and chickpeas were simple yet nourishing, offering sustenance that was steady and reliable. Long before potatoes arrived on tables, legumes traveled from field to kitchen, bridging the gentle rhythms of agriculture with the warmth of the hearth. Imagine a soft morning in a village surrounded by rolling fields. Sunlight spills over the earth, illuminating small shoots of peas climbing wooden trellises and tiny green beans stretching toward the sky. Lentils and chickpeas grow in rows, their tiny seeds tucked carefully within pods, waiting patiently for the hands that will gather them. Harvesting legumes was a gentle, deliberate process. Fingers separated tender pods from sturdy stems, careful not to bruise the seeds within. Every movement was slow, measured, and attentive. Children often helped, learning the quiet patience required to tend these plants and prepare them for the meals to come. Once collected, legumes were cleaned and prepared in calm kitchens warmed by fire. Some were soaked overnight in soft water, their hard shells gradually yielding to gentle heat. Others were boiled slowly, simmering over the hearth for hours. The aroma that filled the room was earthy and soothing, a quiet invitation to sit, relax, and let the senses settle. Legumes were versatile. Lentils could become soft, comforting soups, while chickpeas might be crushed into pastes for gentle breads or simple savory dishes. Beans were simmered with herbs, roots, or grains, creating meals that were both filling and softly fragrant. Each dish was prepared slowly, with care, reflecting the rhythm of a life lived in harmony with the land. Evening meals often revolved around these humble foods. Families gathered quietly around the hearth, sharing bowls of warm lentil stew or simmering beans. Conversation was soft and reflective, the crackle of the fire and the gentle hiss of simmering water forming a peaceful soundtrack. Every bite carried calm nourishment, a quiet satisfaction that reached beyond the body into the spirit. Legumes also provided a sense of security. They could be stored dried for long periods, ensuring that nourishment was available even when fresh produce was scarce. In this way, legumes connected people to the steady rhythm of the seasons, offering comfort and reliability through months of work and waiting. The preparation of legumes was almost meditative. Stirring a simmering pot, watching the seeds soften, and breathing in the gentle aroma became a slow, mindful practice. Every action reminded people to move with care, to observe patience, and to find quiet satisfaction in the smallest, simplest acts. Across regions, legumes were cultivated in various soils and climates, yet their role remained constant. They provided protein, texture, and subtle flavor, complementing grains, roots, fruits, and dairy. They became an enduring part of the diet, shaping meals with calm consistency and gentle nourishment. Herbs, roots, and grains often joined legumes in the pot, creating layered flavors that were soft, harmonious, and deeply satisfying. The combination of these ingredients reflected the careful attention of cooks and the gentle rhythm of ancient kitchens, where every meal was crafted slowly and thoughtfully. Even in the quietest homes, a pot of legumes simmered with tender care. The gentle warmth, subtle aroma, and soft textures brought families together, creating a shared sense of peace and sustenance. These meals encouraged calm conversation, reflection, and the quiet appreciation of life's simple pleasures. Legumes were more than food. They were a rhythm, a gentle reminder of patience, resilience, and the steady passage of time. Their presence in kitchens and fields shaped life with calmness, offering slow, sustaining nourishment to all who sat near the hearth and shared in their quiet abundance. Amid the humble staples of ancient life, honey and natural sweets offered quiet delight. Long before potatoes transformed meals, people discovered gentle sources of sweetness in the gifts of nature. Honey, berries, and other naturally sweet foods were savored slowly, bringing warmth, calm, and subtle joy to kitchens and hearts alike. Imagine walking through a sunlit forest or meadow. Bees hum softly as they gather nectar from flowers, their tiny wings catching light as they move gracefully from blossom to blossom. The air is fragrant with the gentle scent of wildflowers, the promise of sweetness carried in each quiet movement. Harvesting honey was a careful, patient task. Skilled hands opened hives slowly, taking only what was needed, leaving enough for the bees to continue their work. The golden honey flowed thick and smooth, glistening in the sunlight, its aroma soft and comforting. Every drop was a small treasure, a gentle taste of nature's rhythm and patience. In kitchens warmed by the hearth, honey was added to porridges, baked into simple breads, or drizzled over fruits and nuts. Its flavor was subtle but profound, enhancing meals without overpowering them. Soft berries, collected from nearby fields, were gently washed and sometimes cooked slowly, releasing their natural sweetness into tender compotes or preserves. Evening meals carried a quiet magic when sweet foods were present. A spoonful of honey in warm milk, a few berries alongside bread, or a small serving of a gently baked fruit dish offered calm satisfaction. The aroma, the soft textures, and the natural sweetness created a comforting rhythm, easing both hunger and the mind. These natural sweets were not indulgent in the modern sense. They were treated with mindfulness, consumed slowly, and appreciated fully. Their gentle flavors encouraged calm eating, reflection, and gratitude for the simple pleasures provided by the earth and its creatures. Children learned to savor these treats carefully. They understood the value of patience, how bees worked slowly to create honey, how fruits ripened gradually in the sun, how berries could be gathered only when fully sweet. Every bite was a lesson in quiet appreciation and gentle care. Honey also served as a soft preservative, allowing fruits and herbs to last longer. Mixed with nuts or grains, it created nourishing combinations that could be stored and enjoyed over time, providing gentle sustenance through the changing seasons. Across regions, natural sweets varied, yet their presence was always calming. From wild berries in northern meadows to honey gathered in sunlit groves, these foods connected people to the land and its slow, patient rhythms. They reminded households that sweetness could be simple, subtle, and deeply satisfying. Kitchens filled with the aroma of honey and cooked fruits were gentle sanctuaries. Families gathered quietly, sharing these small delights, their senses engaged by the soft sweetness, the tender textures, and the warmth of the hearth. Meals became moments of reflection, comfort, and slow, mindful enjoyment. Even in the midst of work or travel, a small portion of honey or a few berries could provide calm nourishment, a reminder of the steady abundance that surrounded life. These foods were gentle companions, offering softness and warmth in every bite. The sweetness of honey and natural fruits was more than flavor. It was a quiet rhythm, a connection to nature, and a slow, mindful pleasure. In every drop and every bite, people discovered calm, nourishment, and a gentle joy that lingered long after the meal had ended. Beyond gardens and cultivated fields, people of the ancient world gently gathered nuts, seeds, and wild edibles from forests, meadows, and riverbanks. These quiet treasures of nature provided nourishment that was simple, sustaining, and deeply connected to the rhythms of the seasons. Long before potatoes became common, these foods offered variety, texture, and a sense of calm abundance. Imagine walking through a forest in the soft light of early autumn. Leaves rustle gently beneath your feet, and the air carries the subtle scent of damp earth, fallen leaves, and ripening nuts. Acorns, hazelnuts, and chestnuts rest lightly on the ground, waiting to be collected with careful hands. Nearby, seeds glimmer softly on plants, and tender wild greens peek through the underbrush. Foraging was a mindful, patient activity. Each nut and seed was gathered deliberately, with attention to selecting the ripest and most nourishing pieces. Wild berries were plucked gently, herbs and shoots collected slowly. Every movement respected the natural world, taking only what was needed and leaving plenty behind for the seasons to come. Once brought home, these treasures were treated with care. Nuts could be roasted slowly over gentle flames, their aromas filling kitchens with warmth and subtle richness. Seeds were lightly toasted or ground into soft pastes, adding mild flavor and texture to simple dishes. Wild greens were washed and incorporated into stews or served as fresh, tender additions to meals. The gentle crunch of roasted nuts, the soft texture of seeds, and the delicate taste of wild edibles brought variety to everyday meals. They were comforting, yet lively, adding subtle complexity to dishes without overwhelming the calm simplicity of the hearth-cooked staples. Evenings were enhanced by the presence of these foods. Families might share a bowl of mixed nuts or a few roasted seeds by the fire, savoring each bite slowly, appreciating the quiet, natural flavors. The aroma, warmth, and texture created a soothing rhythm, a gentle reminder of the care and patience required to gather, prepare, and enjoy these small gifts from the land. Foraged foods also carried lessons in observation and attentiveness. Children learned to recognize edible plants, to distinguish between seeds, nuts, and berries, and to move through the natural world with quiet mindfulness. Every walk through the forest or meadow became an exercise in patience, awareness, and calm. These foods could also be stored, providing nourishment through colder months. Nuts were kept in cool, dry places, and seeds preserved their gentle flavor over time. Wild greens might be dried or fermented, extending their presence from season to season, and ensuring that even in winter, meals carried a subtle connection to the land. Across different regions, the types of nuts, seeds, and wild edibles varied, yet their role remained similar. They offered both nourishment and gentle variety, soft flavors and textures that complemented grains, legumes, fruits, and vegetables. Their quiet abundance shaped meals, providing calm, sustaining comfort. The process of preparing foraged foods became a slow ritual. Roasting, grinding, and cooking required gentle attention, allowing cooks to move in harmony with the ingredients. The soft, earthy aromas mingled with other foods, creating a kitchen environment that was peaceful, nurturing, and full of subtle sensory delight. Even a small handful of these foods could be deeply satisfying. The flavors, textures, and aromas engaged the senses gently, providing both sustenance and a sense of connection to the quiet world outside the home. They reminded people of the steady, patient abundance of nature and the rhythm of the seasons. Nuts, seeds, and wild edibles were more than sustenance. They were small treasures of calm, patience, and slow nourishment. They shaped life gently, creating meals that were mindful, sustaining, and quietly joyful, a soft reminder of the natural bounty that existed long before potatoes became a part of daily life. As we settle into the final moments of our journey, we can reflect on the world before potatoes, a world shaped by patience, simplicity, and gentle nourishment. Meals were not rushed, nor were they extravagant. Each bite, each pot simmering on the hearth, carried with it the quiet rhythm of life and the steady flow of the seasons. Imagine a small village at dusk. Smoke rises softly from hearths, mingling with the cool evening air. Families move slowly within their homes, tending fires, stirring pots, and preparing modest yet satisfying meals. The scent of roots, grains, herbs, and fruits drifts through the air, wrapping the village in warmth and calm. Daily meals were carefully balanced. Grains, legumes, roots, and greens provided steady nourishment, while dairy, eggs, and occasional fruits offered softness and subtle richness. Honey and natural sweets appeared in small quantities, creating quiet moments of joy without hurry or excess. Nuts, seeds, and foraged plants added texture, aroma, and gentle variety. Cooking was a mindful act, each step performed slowly and deliberately. Water simmered, herbs released their fragrance, and vegetables softened in the gentle warmth of the hearth. The kitchen became a place of calm focus, where the preparation of food mirrored the measured, patient rhythm of life itself. Evening meals were soft and reflective. Families gathered near the fire, breaking bread, sharing bowls of tender roots or simmering grains, and sipping warm milk or tea. Conversation was quiet, occasionally punctuated by soft laughter. The atmosphere was soothing, a gentle pause that allowed both body and mind to rest. The pace of life was slow, shaped by the seasons, the movement of the sun, and the cycles of planting and harvest. Every meal reflected this rhythm, offering sustenance while honoring patience and care. People ate with intention, savoring flavors, textures, and the subtle comfort of foods prepared with attention. Communities relied on the land in thoughtful ways. Gardens, fields, rivers, and forests provided the ingredients for everyday meals, while the careful preservation of grains, roots, dairy, and foraged foods ensured continuity through winter months. This balance created security, calm, and gentle abundance. Children learned the quiet wisdom of the kitchen and the land. They observed how meals were prepared, how herbs and roots were handled, and how patience transformed simple ingredients into satisfying dishes. Every action taught mindfulness, respect for nature, and the comfort of steady, nourishing routines. Meals were more than just food. They were rituals of care and connection. Sharing a pot of stew, a loaf of bread, or a bowl of fruit reinforced bonds between family members and connected people to the broader rhythms of life. Every meal became a soft celebration of simplicity, patience, and the quiet abundance of the earth. Even in moments of scarcity, the gentle staples of ancient life, grains, legumes, roots, dairy, herbs, and fruits, provided comfort. They reminded families that life moved steadily forward, and that nourishment, patience, and care could sustain both body and spirit through any season. The aroma of simmering foods, the warmth of the hearth, and the soft, deliberate pace of the kitchen created spaces of calm. These moments were quiet, restorative, and deeply satisfying. Life before potatoes carried a gentle rhythm, where each meal was a pause, a reflection, and a source of quiet contentment. As night falls and the village rests, imagine the soft glow of fires, the gentle scent of tender meals, and the calm presence of family near the hearth. This was a world where food was simple, preparation was deliberate, and life moved slowly, patiently, and in harmony with the land. A world where every meal, no matter how humble, carried warmth, comfort, and the quiet reassurance of continuity. Long after the gentle rhythms of ancient meals, the potato quietly arrived, bringing subtle changes to kitchens, fields, and tables. Unlike the slow, deliberate foods we've explored, potatoes offered a new kind of nourishment, steady, versatile, and abundant. Yet even this transformation unfolded gently over time, reshaping meals without haste, as the world adapted slowly to its presence. Imagine soft fields of potatoes under the sun, their green leaves swaying in the breeze. The tubers hide beneath the soil, waiting patiently to be gathered. Like other foods we have explored, they require care and attention, yet their quiet abundance allows communities to explore new possibilities in cooking, preservation, and sustenance. The potato added a calm variety to meals. It could be boiled, mashed, roasted, or baked slowly, blending harmoniously with grains, legumes, roots, and herbs. It offered warmth and comfort, often becoming a simple, satisfying companion to foods that had long nourished families in earlier times. Yet the arrival of this new staple was also a reminder of the gentle passage of time. Life, rhythm, and patience continued to guide kitchens, gardens, and hearths. People learned to integrate potatoes slowly, without rushing, maintaining the mindful care that had always shaped meals. Even as potatoes spread across lands and tables, the essence of the old world remained. The calm rituals of harvesting, preparing, and sharing food endured. Herbs, grains, legumes, fruits, and dairy continue to provide subtle flavors, textures, and quiet connection to nature. The potato simply became another element in this timeless, nurturing rhythm. Reflecting on this change, we can appreciate the balance between continuity and transformation. Potatoes brought new nourishment, yet they did so without disturbing the slow, deliberate harmony that shaped daily life. They remind us that even change can be gentle, patient, and sustaining. As the evening deepens, we can imagine kitchens both old and new. The aroma of simmering roots and grains mingling softly with the subtle warmth of potato dishes. The fire crackles quietly, and life continues in its calm, steady rhythm, an enduring connection between people, food, and the earth that nurtures them. This reflection is not only about potatoes, but also about patience, care, and mindful living. Every meal, whether with ancient staples or new arrivals, carries the quiet wisdom of generations. And as we rest, we can carry this calm rhythm with us, letting it linger like a soft, comforting lullaby as the night unfolds.